No one came when the alarms first sounded. No one answered when the stars themselves seemed to turn hostile. And when the sky finally began to fall, every living soul on the planet understood one terrible truth: they were alone. The world of Alara 9 had never known war. It was a quiet frontier colony, wrapped in pale blue oceans and wide amber plains. Its cities were built low and open, designed for sunlight and peace, not for defense. That was why the first explosions felt unreal, like a nightmare that refused to end. Governor Lyris Valin stood on the balcony of the planetary command spire, watching fire spread across the horizon. She was human, born on Earth, but Alara 9 was her home. Millions lived here, humans and allied species who believed distance from the core worlds meant safety. They were wrong. Above the clouds, massive shadows drifted into view. The ships were not elegant or bright. They were sharp, dark, and silent, like blades sliding through water. The Car Dominion had arrived. No declaration. No warning. No demands. Just destruction. Inside the command spire, officers rushed between stations. Holographic screens flickered with damage reports. Defense satellites failed one by one, erased as if they had never existed. "Governor," said Commander Jace Moreno, his voice tight but controlled. "Orbital defense is gone. Fleet command confirms. We have no military assets left in system." Lyris already knew. She could feel it in her chest, heavy and cold. "Distress calls?" she asked. Jace hesitated. That single pause was worse than any answer. "We sent them the moment the first car ship crossed the boundary," he said. Earth Command received it. So did the Allied Council. And Lyris pressed. "They're evaluating." Evaluating. While cities burned. The Car Dominion was ancient and feared. Their fleets moved like storms, unstoppable and uncaring. Entire civilizations had vanished after their arrival. Everyone knew this. Everyone was afraid. That fear was why no one came. Alara 9 had no strategic value. No rare resources. No ancient relics. Just people. Below the spire, evacuation sirens wailed. Transport ships fled the surface in desperate waves, many shot down before reaching orbit. The rest escaped into deep space with no clear destination. Lyris watched a hospital complex vanish in a flash of white light. "How long?" she asked quietly. Jace swallowed. "At this rate? 12 hours before planetary control is complete. 12 hours to lose everything." In the underground shelters, families huddled together. Children clutched parents who did not know how to explain what was happening. Elder species whispered prayers in languages older than human history. Some cried. Some sat in silence. Hope was already dying. In the command spire, a junior officer suddenly spoke up. "Governor, we're receiving a transmission." Lyris turned sharply. "From who?" The officer checked again, confused. "It's old. Civilian frequency. Logged years ago." "Play it." The room filled with static, then a human voice, calm, steady, and unfamiliar. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the exploratory vessel Ardent Dawn. If anyone hears this, know that humanity does not abandon its own. We are out here. And we are listening." The message ended. Silence followed. Jace frowned. That ship was decommissioned years ago. Lost beyond mapped space. Lyris felt something stir. Not hope, yet, but curiosity. "Why did it trigger now?" she asked. The officer shook their head. "Unknown. It activated automatically when our distress beacon reached deep void channels." Deep void. The places no one went anymore. The car ground forces began landing soon after. Their soldiers moved with mechanical precision, tall and armored, weapons glowing with energy that tore through walls and flesh alike. Resistance was brief and brave, and meaningless. Human militia units fought street by street, buying minutes with their lives. Alien allies stood beside them, refusing to run even when escape was still possible. Lyris moved through the command spire, helping where she could. She spoke to officers, medics, anyone still standing. She refused evacuation when it was offered. "If this world falls," she said, "I fall with it." Hours passed like seconds. Then the sky changed. At first, no one noticed. Too much fire. Too much smoke. But sensors began to behave strangely. Long-range scans returned noise instead of data. "Governor," Jace said slowly, staring at his console. "Something just exited faster than light travel." Lyris felt her breath catch. "Alliance fleet." "No," he replied. "Signature doesn't match anything on record." The car ships reacted instantly. Their formations shifted, weapons reorienting toward empty space. Then space itself seemed to tear. A layer of blinding white light opened above the planet, silent and impossible. From it emerged a single vessel, massive, scarred, and unmistakably human. It was not sleek like modern ships. It was heavy, layered with armor upon armor, its hull marked with symbols worn by time and battle. Engines burned like small suns, stabilizing it as it fully emerged from the void. Across its side, barely visible through scorched metal, were words painted in old Earth script. "Humanity answers." The command spire erupted in stunned silence. "A single ship," someone whispered. "Against the car fleet." The car did not hesitate. Their ships opened fire. The human warship did not dodge. It absorbed the attack. Energy slammed into its shields and vanished. Not weakened, vanished. Then the ship responded. One weapon fired. Not fast. Not flashy. Just precise. A car battleship ceased to exist. Gasps filled the room. The human ship moved forward, alone, directly into the heart of the enemy formation. Jace looked at Lyris, eyes wide. "Governor, it's broadcasting on all channels." "Put it through," she said, her voice barely steady. The screen filled with the image of a human captain, older, calm, eyes burning with quiet resolve. "This is Captain Elias Ward," he said. "To the people of Alara 9, hold on. You are not forgotten." The captain turned slightly, issuing orders off-screen. "To the Car Dominion," he continued, voice cold now. "You chose the wrong world." Lyris felt tears sting her eyes, not from victory, not yet, but from something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. Because when the galaxy looked away, humanity did not. And the war had just begun. The human warship did not slow as it advanced. From the command spire, Governor Lyris Vallin watched the battle unfold in stunned silence. The Car Dominion fleet had always been overwhelming. Hundreds of ships. Perfect coordination. Cold efficiency. Entire civilizations had broken under that sight alone. Yet now, those same ships hesitated. One human vessel had entered their formation, and the galaxy's most feared armada did not know what to do. "Governor," Commander Jace Moreno said quietly, his voice shaking despite himself, "their firepower output, it's impossible." The human ship's shields flared again as beams and missiles slammed into it from every direction. Sensors screamed warnings, numbers spiking beyond safe limits. Any known ship would have been torn apart. But the human warship kept moving. It was not elegant. It did not dance through space. It pushed forward, absorbing punishment through layered defenses that made no sense by standard engineering. Hull plates shifted. Energy fields adapted. Systems rerouted faster than the car targeting algorithms could respond. "They're learning," a tactical officer whispered. "The shields are changing in real time." Human technology had always been considered crude, overbuilt, inefficient. But now, watching it in action, Lyris understood the truth. It wasn't crude. It was stubborn. The first car battleship had vanished in a single strike, erased by a focused weapon that bent space itself for a brief, violent moment. Now the human ship fired again, short bursts, controlled, deliberate. Every shot mattered. Every shot destroyed something important. The car fleet tried to regroup. Ships pulled back, forming layered attack spheres. Their command vessel, vast and angular, shifted position, staying well behind the front line. "They're adapting," Jace said. "They've never faced this kind of resistance." Lyris leaned forward. Can we contact the human ship? Jace nodded. Already trying. On the human warship, the bridge was calm. Captain Elias Ward stood at the center, hands clasped behind his back. Around him, officers worked with quiet focus. The bridge was old, by modern standards. Physical controls. Hardened displays. Redundant systems layered on top of each other. Damage report, Ward said. Shields holding at 86%, replied the chief engineer. Hull breaches sealed. We're routing excess energy into forward capacitors. Ward nodded. Good. They're hitting us harder now. They're scared, said the tactical officer. That's new. Ward allowed himself a thin smile. Fear makes enemies predictable. A young communications officer turned from her console. Captain, incoming transmission from the planet. Human origin. Put it through. Governor Lyris appeared on the screen, smoke-stained and wide-eyed. This is Governor Vallin of Alara 9, she said. Captain, whoever you are, we did not expect. You sent a call, Ward interrupted gently. We heard it. But you're alone, Lyris said. The car fleet. Ward's expression hardened. We've been alone before. He glanced at a display showing casualty projections, numbers that would horrify any council strategist. Governor, he continued, you need to buy us time. Evacuate who you can. Reinforce shelters. We will keep them busy. Lyris hesitated. You can't win this alone. Ward met her eyes through the screen. Winning isn't always about numbers. The transmission ended as the ship lurched violently. The car had launched a coordinated strike, focusing everything on the human vessel. Alarms blared. Shields down to 60%, someone shouted. Rerouting power from aft systems, the engineer replied. We can hold, but not forever. Ward stepped closer to the tactical display. Then we don't hold forever. We hit them where it hurts. The human ship altered course, diving straight toward the densest cluster of enemy vessels. It was reckless. It was insane. It was exactly what the car did not expect. Point defense cannons roared, tearing apart incoming drones and missiles. The ship's main weapon charged again, energy spiraling inward like a collapsing star. Fire, Ward ordered. The blast tore through 3 ships at once, punching a hole straight through the car formation. Debris scattered, disrupting formations and sensor locks. For the first time in centuries, the car Dominion lost cohesion. On Alara 9, cheers erupted across the command spire. Soldiers who had been preparing to die stared at the sky in disbelief. Civilians in shelters felt the ground shake, not from bombardment, but from the thunder of hope returning. They're retreating, an officer shouted. Enemy ground forces are pulling back. Lyris clenched her fists. They're afraid, she whispered. Yes. The car were afraid. They had built their entire doctrine on overwhelming force and terror. On the idea that resistance was pointless. That logic had shattered the moment one human ship refused to break. But fear makes monsters dangerous. The car command vessel began charging a weapon unlike anything seen before. Energy signatures spiked off the charts, warping space around it. Jace stared at the readings. Governor, that weapon could crack the planet. On the human bridge, alarms howled. They're going to fire on the surface, the tactical officer said. They don't care about losses anymore. Ward's jaw tightened. They want to make an example. He opened a channel to all frequencies, galactic, civilian, military. This is Captain Elias Ward of the human warship Ardent Dawn, he said, his voice steady and clear. To anyone listening, this is why we stand. The ship surged forward, engines burning beyond safe limits. Captain, the engineer warned, we're pushing the core too hard. Ward did not look back. Then hold it together. Just a little longer. The Ardent Dawn raced toward the car command vessel, alone, outgunned, and burning through its last reserves. On Alara 9, Lyris watched the impossible unfold. A single human ship, scarred and stubborn, charging into the heart of an empire. And somewhere, far beyond the battlefield, long-range sensors began to stir. Because the galaxy was watching now. And humanity was reminding it of something it had forgotten. Humans do not arrive in time. They arrive when they are needed. And they do not turn away. The ardent dawn should have broken apart. Every tactical model ever written said it should. Its engines burned far beyond safety limits, its shields flickered dangerously, and its hull glowed from accumulated heat. The void around it twisted as space itself strained under the pressure of the car superweapon charging ahead. Yet the ship kept accelerating. On the bridge, Captain Elias Ward felt the vibration through his boots. He could hear it in the bones of the ship, metal complaining, systems protesting, warnings screaming to be acknowledged. He ignored them. "Distance to car command vessel?" he asked. "Closing fast," the navigator replied. 30 seconds at current burn. "Good," Ward said. "That's all we need." The car flagship loomed ahead, enormous and alien, its surface alive with shifting black armor plates. Energy gathered along its spine, bright and violent, enough to end the war with one shot. On Alara 9, Governor Lyris Vallin watched the same sight through planetary sensors. Her hands trembled despite her efforts to stay calm. "They're going to die," someone whispered. Lyris said nothing. She refused to believe that this was the moment hope arrived only to be taken away. On the ardent dawn, the tactical officer turned. "Captain, this won't be enough. Even if we breach their shields, we don't have the firepower to destroy that ship." Ward nodded. "I know." The officer frowned. "Then what's the plan?" Ward finally smiled, not wide, not happy, but certain. "We do what humans do best," he said. "We improvise." He tapped a control, opening a secure channel to engineering. "Chief, how stable is the core?" A pause. Then laughter, strained, exhausted, human. "Stable is a generous word, Captain. She's holding together out of spite." "Good," Ward replied. "I need you to reroute core output into the jump drive." Silence. "Captain," the engineer said slowly, "that's not possible. Jump drives aren't weapons." "They are today." Understanding dawned. "You want to jump inside them." Ward's eyes stayed on the approaching flagship. "Not fully. Just enough." The engineer exhaled. "That'll tear half the ship apart." Ward nodded once. "Make sure it tears their ship apart first." The car fired. A beam of condensed energy erupted from the flagship, aimed not at the ardent dawn, but at Alara 9 itself. On the planet, alarms screamed. The sky began to glow, atmosphere igniting under the approaching weapon. "No," Lyris whispered. The ardent dawn moved. It surged across the beam's path, shields flaring violently as the planet-killing weapon struck it instead. Energy washed over the ship like a tidal wave. Hull plating vaporized. Systems failed. Crew members were thrown from their stations. "Shields collapsing," someone shouted. "Hold." Ward barked. "Hold." The ship did more than hold. It caught the beam. The energy fed directly into the jump drive, overloading it, bending space around the ardent dawn like a clenched fist. "Now!" Ward ordered. The jump drive activated. For a fraction of a second, the human warship existed in two places at once. Inside the car flagship, reality failed. Space tore open in the heart of the command vessel as the ardent dawn partially translated into its core. The clash of matter and energy detonated outward, ripping through decks, reactors, and control systems in a cascading chain reaction. The car flagship died silently. It did not explode. It collapsed. The massive vessel folded in on itself, crushed by forces it was never designed to survive. In moments, the heart of the car fleet vanished into a shrinking knot of broken physics and burning debris. Across the battlefield, car ships froze. Their coordination vanished with their command core. Formation dissolved into chaos. Some ships fired blindly. Others began retreating immediately. On Alara 9, the planet-killing beam dissipated harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. For several long seconds, no one spoke. Then the command spire erupted. They did it. The flagship is gone. The Ka are retreating. Lyris collapsed into a chair, tears finally falling freely. She didn't wipe them away. Above the planet, the ardent dawn drifted. Its hull was shattered, engines dark, systems failing one by one. Fires burned across its surface. Life support flickered. On the bridge, smoke filled the air. Crew members worked by emergency lights, coughing, bleeding, but alive. Ward gripped the console as gravity fluctuated. "Status," he said. The engineer's voice came through, weak but proud. "Jump drive is gone. Half the ship is gone." "But Captain." Ward looked up. "The Ka fleet is running." On the planet below, sensors confirmed it. Ka ground forces withdrew rapidly, abandoning positions they had taken at such cost. Their ships fled the system, disorganized and broken. For the first time in days, the sky above Alara 9 grew quiet. Lyris stood and straightened her uniform. "Open a channel," she said. The image of Captain Ward appeared again, his face marked with soot and exhaustion. "You saved us," she said softly. Ward shook his head. "No. We just gave you time." Lyris frowned. "Time for what?" Before Ward could answer, an officer in the spire shouted, "Governor, new contacts. Multiple jump signatures." Fear surged again, then vanished as sensor data resolved. Human ships. Dozens of them. Old and new. Military and civilian. Exploration vessels, cargo haulers, retrofitted miners, ships that had no business being in a battle. They poured into the system from every direction. Ward allowed himself a tired smile. "We're not alone anymore," he said. Lyris stared at the display, overwhelmed. "Why?" she asked. "Why would they come?" Ward's voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "Because someone answered a call," he said. "And humans don't ignore those." As the human fleet spread out, forming a protective wall around Alara 9, a message echoed across the system, picked up by every sensor, every listening ear in the galaxy. Humanity does not seek war. But when we stand together. And the galaxy, watching in stunned silence, began to understand. This was not luck. This was not chance. This was what happened when hope was met by human will. And it was only the beginning. The arrival of the human fleet changed everything. From the surface of Alara 9, the sky no longer looked like a grave. It looked like a shield. Ships of every size and shape took formation around the planet. Some were clearly military, sleek cruisers and heavy carriers bristling with weapons. Others were not. Cargo haulers with reinforced hulls. Mining ships with oversized drills refitted into cannons. Even civilian transports, their hulls painted with fresh armor and hand-welded plates. None of them should have been there. But they were. Governor Lyris Vallin watched the sensor displays in silence, her mind struggling to catch up with reality. Hours ago, extinction had been certain. Now, the Ka fleet was in full retreat, scattering toward deep space. "They're running," Commander Jace Moreno said, disbelief still thick in his voice. "Every Ka vessel is jumping out system." Lyris closed her eyes for a moment. Then she straightened. "Open all channels," she said. "I want the galaxy to hear this." Across Alara 9, shelters opened. People emerged cautiously at first, blinking up at the sky. Fires still burned. Buildings lay in ruins. But the bombing had stopped. Children pointed upward. Parents fell to their knees. On the bridge of the battered Ardent Dawn, Captain Elias Ward sat heavily in his command chair. Medics moved among the crew, treating wounds with practiced efficiency. The ship felt tired, like an old warrior who had finally been allowed to rest. A young officer approached. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Allied Council." Ward raised an eyebrow. "Now they're calling." The hologram flickered to life, revealing several alien representatives. Their expressions ranged from shock to barely hidden fear. "Captain Ward," one of them said carefully. "This escalation was unexpected." Ward's eyes hardened. Unexpected, he replied. So was the invasion of a civilian world. Another representative leaned forward. The Car Dominion has never been pushed back like this. Your actions may have consequences. Ward leaned closer to the display. So will yours, he said calmly. You heard the call. You chose not to answer. Silence followed. Then Ward cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. Status of the fleet. They're forming a defensive perimeter, the tactical officer replied. Some ships are requesting permission to land and assist with relief efforts. Ward nodded. Grant it. On the surface, human soldiers landed alongside Ailran defenders. They did not take command. They did not demand authority. They helped. Engineers restored power grids. Medics worked without rest. Soldiers stood guard over shelter entrances, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Lyris walked through the streets of her capital city, escorted by both human and alien guards. People stopped her, not to ask questions, but to thank her for not giving up. She stopped beside a human engineer kneeling next to a damaged water purifier. "Why did you come?" she asked him. The man looked up, surprised. "Because you asked." "That's it." He shrugged. "That's always been enough for us." High above, the human fleet maintained its watch. Long-range sensors tracked car movements. The enemy was regrouping, pulling back to territories once thought untouchable. But something had changed. Across the galaxy, distress channels lit up. Worlds that had stayed silent before now spoke openly of fear not of humanity, but of what they had allowed to happen. Analysts debated. Admirals recalculated. Ancient powers quietly shifted fleets. Because the myth had been broken. Humans were not weak. Humans were not insignificant. They were something far more dangerous. They cared. On the ardent dawn, Ward stood by a viewport, looking down at Alara 9. Repairs would take months. Some systems would never be replaced. The ship would never jump again. He was fine with that. "Captain," the communications officer said. "Message from Earth." Ward turned. A familiar emblem appeared on the screen. "We are proud of you." That was all it said. Ward exhaled slowly. Below him, on a world that had nearly died, children laughed for the first time in days. And across the galaxy, a quiet realization spread from system to system. When humans arrive late, it is not because they do not care. It is because when they arrive together. And the galaxy had not yet seen what that truly meant. The war did not end at Alara 9. But everything changed there. In the days that followed, the planet slowly breathed again. Fires were extinguished. Power grids came back online. The dead were mourned, names spoken aloud so they would not vanish into statistics. Human and alien medics worked side by side, sleepless and stubborn, refusing to let exhaustion win. Governor Lyris Valin stood at a rebuilt observation platform overlooking the city. Scaffolding rose like skeletal trees around damaged towers, but life moved between them. Markets reopened with half their stalls missing. Schools gathered children in underground halls, teaching lessons not from books, but from survival. She watched her daughter, Erin, laugh with a human child over a shared meal. That single sound felt like victory. Above the planet, the human fleet still held position. Some ships departed, responding to other distress calls now flooding the network. Others stayed, refusing payment, refusing titles, refusing praise. Captain Elias Ward remained aboard the Ardent Dawn, overseeing repairs that would never fully restore the ship. The jump drive was gone. The hull would always carry scars where space itself had tried to tear it apart. He did not regret a single decision. "Captain," his first officer said quietly, joining him at the viewport. "Fleet Command wants to know what you want next." Ward considered the question. "I want," he said slowly, "to make sure no one forgets this." Across the galaxy, no one could. Recordings of the battle spread faster than any official report. Footage of the lone human warship charging the Car flagship. Data showing adaptive shields and impossible engineering. civilian ships standing shoulder to shoulder with military vessels. But what shocked the galaxy most was not the firepower. It was the reason. Every major power had ignored the call. Calculated risks. Measured losses. Debated consequences. Humans had heard the same call. And come anyway. On the Car homeworld, silence ruled the War Council chambers. Their leaders stared at projections of lost fleets and broken doctrine. For the first time in their recorded history, fear sat among them, not of annihilation, but of resistance. The humans did not conquer. They did not chase retreating fleets. They did not demand surrender. They simply stood where others fell. And that terrified empires built on fear. Weeks later, the Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The chamber was full in a way it had not been for centuries. Screens displayed the rebuilt skies of Alara 9 and the quiet presence of human patrols beyond it. A Telmari elder spoke first, voice heavy with age. "We misjudged them," he said. "We believed strength came from numbers and history. We were wrong." A Hazsak representative followed. "They did what none of us would." When it was humanity's turn to speak, they sent no admirals. They sent a civilian. A woman in simple clothing stood before the council. "Humans do not claim to be saviors," she said. "We are flawed. We argue. We fail. We arrive late." She paused, eyes steady. "But we do not abandon those who ask for help." The council chamber was silent. Back on Alara 9, a monument was raised near the command spire. Not of stone or metal, but of names. Every life lost. Every species. Every child who never grew up. At its center was a simple plaque. They called. Humanity answered. Captain Ward attended the dedication quietly, standing at the back. When Governor Lyris approached him, he tried to step away. "You don't like ceremonies," she said, smiling. "I prefer work," Ward replied. She nodded. "Then know this, Alara 9 will remember. Long after fleets move on." Ward looked at the sky, where the stars were finally calm. "Good," he said. "That's enough." Months later, the ardent dawn was officially retired. She would never travel the void again. Instead, she was anchored above Alara 9 as a permanent guardian, her weapons silent, her presence enough. Children grew up pointing at her silhouette. That's where humans stood. Across the galaxy, new protocols were written. Distress calls were no longer ignored so easily. Fleets were repositioned. Empires hesitated. Because somewhere in the dark, humanity was listening. And the galaxy had learned the truth too late to forget. When all hope is lost. When the stars go silent. When the powerful look away. Humanity emerges from the void. Not as conquerors. Not as gods. But as something far more dangerous. Friends who refuse to leave. And that was the day the galaxy remembered what humans truly were. End of story.